Welcome back, everybody. Sheepdog Smokey here. As always, hope you're having a productive beginning of week 4 of the self-quarantine, at least for me. It's longer for some, shorter for others. And I've been reading and watching a couple of movies over the weekend, messing with some computer issues, things like that, just generally getting caught up. And something came into my mind. This latest movie I was just actually rewatching was X-Men Dark Phoenix. Before I get into all of my rambling thoughts, please remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're aware of all new content and so you're part of the giveaway at 500, 1,000, and 1,500 subscribers. That said, let's want to dive into this. Rewatching X-Men Dark Phoenix, of course, not my favorite franchise, although not anywhere near my least, in comic book genres. I was thinking back over all of the X-Men movies, from the very first with Sir Patrick Stewart until this last one with James McAvoy. And there's an underlying theme through this. It runs through the MCU, it runs through DC and other comics where you have similar plot lines, where you have a sub-society of people and their work to fit in with the larger world. Before I go further, of course, the term sub-society, like many, can be applied in generic context, in a pro context, and in con context. It can be applied in a good or a bad or a neutral way. In my mind, a sub-society is simply a society within a society. Within any group, there are going to be smaller groups that form. Within the society of the United States, there are 50 sub-societies because each state has their own unique feel and their unique way of life. You go from Texas to New York to Los Angeles to Illinois, you're going to find people are the same in many ways, but are different in many ways. And that is all I mean by sub-society. In the context of this, the sub-society is mutants. X-Men Dark Phoenix actually introduces a second sub-society, that being extraterrestrial, but that's neither here nor there for this discussion. You see, in X-Men Dark Phoenix, much like in the first trilogy of X-Men with Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen, mutants are feared by the wider society. And with anything that brings on fear within a society, there is a push to distance yourself from them. A push to, I don't know how to really say this, but a push to limit interaction, let's say. Within these movies, of course, the push is for containment, for gathering up the mutants and sending them to mutant containment facilities. We saw a bit of that with the second Deadpool movie with the Rift, where mutants have their powers dampened and they're put in prison. And that is generally what happens when there is fear. And in some small context, we're starting to see an inkling of that in today's world. When you look at society, and you look at places like Los Angeles, like Berkeley, like Seattle, like New York, Chicago, even my own area, Texas, North Texas to be specific, there is a push for both solidarity and to maintain your own societal identity. And both can be beneficial and harmful, and often are both whenever these things come up. When we look at we'll look at Seattle right now and Portland, as they seem to be the epicenter of one of these things I'm seeing. You see a society that is very much liberal across those two cities. And you see that there are still people there who are conservative. And the reaction right now in those two cities by at least a portion of those who are liberal is violence. You look at the people in masks. I will always call them thugs and cowards because they hide their face and assault people who simply believe differently. When you look at these conservatives in Seattle and Portland, or you look at what happened at UC Berkeley with Milo and Ben Shapiro and others being invited to talk. When you look at all of these things, there is nothing happening that really in any way requires anything of the sort. But people are assaulted for wearing a hat. People who demonstrate on Berkeley for, I don't know, when Steven Crowder shows up, or when Caitlin Bennett goes to, I believe that's her last name, when she goes to a college campus, they're met with rage and violence. They have their signs stolen and destroyed. People are literally breaking the law, trying to silence all dissent. But when you look at conservative areas, let's look at Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, specifically the western side of the Metroplex, Fort Worth. Very conservative, always has been. You can look at Oklahoma City to an extent there. You can look at Kennesaw, Georgia, very conservative area. And you don't see liberals hounded for wearing their I'm with her or Hope and Change shirts. You don't see them assaulted. You don't see them screamed at. You don't see them insulted and hounded out of town the way you see on the flip side of the coin. And I don't like using these movies as, as examples of what's going on, but their art definitely does mirror life. When we go back to the beginning and you look at Action Comics #1, you look at Detective Comics with Batman, and you look at Marvel Comics with Captain America in World War II, and eventually Iron Man, Spider-Man, Superman, all of them, as they've evolved over the years, they're dealing with people who are not accepted by wider society. The only one that you might even be able to say would be Bruce Wayne, when he is wearing his Bruce Wayne mask. But in the wider sense, none of them are. And in comic books, of course, they are larger than life. These are mutants with extraordinary powers, aliens with amazing abilities. These are billionaires who wear a bat suit and fight crime, or billionaires who build a technical suit and fight crime and aliens. These are people who are not really part of wider society. Even with Tony Stark, he is part of a high society, if you will. We deal with these things, and there's always people that have these abilities on both sides of the argument. When you look at, most recently, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the Inhumans, when we had the, I believe, 8-episode run of their TV show for Inhumans with Black Bolt and Medusa and the rest, these were people who had lived completely separate from human society for decades. And when introduced to human society lashes out, and the Inhumans lash out back. With Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you have the Inhumans who are hiding in plain sight. Some are doctors, some are Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., others are simply working in normal jobs. And they don't appear any different than the rest of the world, but they have abilities. And as soon as they show their abilities, they're feared and attacked. And we need to not do that. I understand that for those who are very liberal, they firmly believe that the government should supply everything to everyone. And in my mind, that is a blindness to history. Not only can government simply not do that feasibly, because if you control every aspect of society and you are providing everything, that means that production will ultimately fail. People will decide, wait, the government is providing food and shelter and clothing and a car and entertainment and everything I need. Why should I work? Ultimately, the government will have to control the people and force them to work. You will then see those forced to work, if they are not obedient, punished. They may not receive enough rations. Their housing may be substandard. It is inevitable that if you put a small group of people in total control of a society, those people will decide, I am ruling. I am here to rule and keep peace. So to keep peace, people must be controlled. It's what we see in these comic book stories. To keep the peace, they must control certain people. In Marvel, right now with that movie, it is the X-Men. It is mutants on a larger scale. They must be controlled, placed in an environment away from society to keep the peace. But ultimately, with the storyline in Days of Future Past, the technology to determine who will ultimately be mutants, whether you're finding their ancestors or you're finding them on a genetic level or anything, and the control widens. Because if you are, we'll take myself for an example, if I am forced to work and I'm working but I'm complaining and I'm voicing my concerns, then they have to widen their control of me and really take control. Well, that would be my family. If I don't work and stay quiet, my family will be punished. It always is an abuse when power is concentrated. That's why this country was set up the way it is. That's why I firmly believe we need term limits on Congress and even the judiciary. When someone is allowed to stay in government office virtually indefinitely and then retire with their full salary and full benefits and be treated as an expert and still sought out and asked what should we do, that person begins to believe I'm the only one who can do this. And they lash out at those who try to stand up for liberty. And we're starting to see inklings of that now with Democrats and their fear-mongering and race-baiting. Ocasio-Cortez just today tweeted, race-baiting that the coronavirus is adversely affecting minority communities. No, it's not. It's affecting everyone. In cities like New York, run by de Blasio, Democrat, governed on the state level by Cuomo, extremely liberal. He may identify as Republican, but he definitely is not. We look at California, run by Newsom, represented by Pelosi and Schiff, and all of the rest. In January, they were telling people that the coronavirus was not going to be that bad. Pelosi famously told people to go to Chinatown. We feel it's safe. Just a few weeks ago, de Blasio was telling New Yorkers to go to the movies. They were telling people that it is xenophobic to ban travel from the geographic region where the virus originates. When that ban was not struck down, as Democrats did try to pass a bill stating the president could not ban travel. We now know that was a good decision to limit travel so we can control the spread of a virus. Then, when they realized that, oh, well, I guess we shouldn't have tried that, they ignore it and they continue their fear-mongering. The country would be in the grips of a true outbreak pandemic had travel not been banned. President Trump has rightly stated that medical professionals are saying they are seeing good results from the use of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine and other drugs. Yet, the New York Post famously said that his touting of untried medicines is denying science. I would challenge the New York Post to find any point in history where a new virus is introduced to the world and instantly there is a medication that just appears that is meant for that virus. They will fail. Whenever a new medical condition arises, whether that be COVID-19, Ebola, H1N1, diabetes, anything, when there is a new medical condition that arises, treatment must be experimented on. They have to look at it, and it starts now in labs. They're not testing on humans. They're not even testing on animals at the beginning. They are looking at the virus, that strain, and they're trying to figure out what is the difference in COVID-19 versus other forms of coronavirus. Then they look at how those strains are similar and different, and they think, well, this is a respiratory virus. Maybe if we tried medication meant for other respiratory diseases, we can see if those treatments are viable. It is a medical issue that medical doctors should be allowed to look at, and no one else should be able to say, don't you dare try that drug. Famously, Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, I believe Michigan, stated that she would sanction doctors who used hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19. She's now begging for 10,000 doses to be sent to her state. This is how medicine works. I am not a doctor. I am not a biologist. I am not a scientist of any kind. I understand the scientific method. Hypothesis is formed. Testing is carried out, and carried out, and carried out, and carried out, until a result can be generated repeatedly. From there, further testing, until ultimately you come to a result. Doctors were saying hydroxychloroquine was providing promising results. An idiot decided that an aquarium cleaner, chloroquine phosphate, not chloroquine, not hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine phosphate, not a medication, because you can only get the medications as a prescription from your doctor. But they took aquarium cleaner, and the media jumped all over Donald Trump saying, he told them to do this. No, he didn't. He said that doctors who are prescribing something that no one can get without a prescription are seeing promising results from that prescription medication. And a moron decided, I'll take aquarium cleaner. And they blamed Donald Trump. Very recently, I had a video, and I am still ongoing in some conversations about Captain Crozier. All of the evidence that I have seen, including a statement made by the acting Secretary of the Navy, Motby, states that Captain Crozier transmitted his letter basically saying, I want to dock this aircraft carrier and put everyone who has COVID-19 off the ship. He sent it via insecure means, ignoring his direct commander, who was just down the corridor from him on board that ship. Copied people who had no clearance to see it, and it ultimately appeared in Captain Crozier's hometown newspaper. All of that evidence points to Captain Crozier breaking chain of command, breaking the UCMJ, transmitting classified information via insecure means, and he was removed as commander of the USS Theodore Roosevelt. I can understand that his subordinates, the sailors on that ship and the Marines on that ship, may still love him because he may have been the best commander they've ever had, but he broke chain of command, violated the UCMJ, violated the procedures for handling classified information, and the Secretary of the Navy removed him. And then all of a sudden we have a sub-society demanding that society obey them by letting a man who broke the rules, broke all regulations regarding that letter, when aid was already on the way to him, they demand he be reinstated and Secretary of Navy be ignored and Donald Trump be blamed. An analogy for that, if you are the CEO of a large organization, you run a large organization, you appoint someone as regional vice president of that organization, and someone under that RVP's leadership does something that could harm your organization. Your RVP removes them. The people who were under that person love that person and start lashing out. It is not the CEO who did anything. It is that RVP who looked at the evidence and removed someone who had violated company rules. It's the same thing. The acting Secretary of the Navy was appointed by Trump. If he was appointed, the term acting actually suggests that they were already the next in line, the basically second in command to the Secretary of the Navy. Secretary of the Navy was either removed or resigned. They stepped up until an appointment could be made. They have a longtime officer who violates chain of command, violates UCMJ, violates the regulations for communicating in it regarding classified information, and they remove him from command. If they choose to just do that and give him a desk job, if they choose to let him resign, if they choose to do anything else, I will let the Secretary of the Navy decide, because the Secretary of the Navy is the one who decides. It is not a sub-society of people who demand that that man be reinstated and given all apologies and raised in pay and everything else, and treated as if he was basically hounded out of a job because of politics. He wasn't. It's the same thing we see. Sub-societies basically decide we should rule. And within that sub-society, there is a split. Some who want to say we should control everything, others who say no, we shouldn't. I would be willing to bet you, if you interviewed those sailors and you asked them, despite your personal feelings for Captain Crozier, with the evidence that he transmitted classified information via insecure means, ignored the chain of command, and violated Navy regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that alone should see him removed from command. Do you agree? I would bet you're going to get a good percentage to say, yes, I love the man, but he broke the rules. You can admire someone and still support the rules being enforced. I've had people that I've worked for removed from positions for very similar reasons. Still love them to this day. Still would go work for them again. But they broke the rules and they were removed from a position of authority. And in those instances, the sub-society, the people they directly supervise in the larger world of that organization, did not rise up and say, how dare you? Doesn't matter. But we've had too many years of people being taught they have a right to be happy. They have a right to be right. They have a right to be obeyed, when none of those things are true. I don't know. I've rambled. I've gotten off topic several times. It's just me thinking out loud. I hope you have a productive week this week. Stay safe, though. We're not to the end of this, and we will not be for a good while. As doctors are saying, the virus sets the timetable. There are people working with plasma, convalescent plasma, where they take plasma from someone who has recovered from COVID-19, isolate the antibodies that helped fight it off, because that person's treatment or their own immune system fought it off, and the treatment created antibodies, what they just did, and they can use that to help people who haven't developed that yet. They are looking at possible vaccines, possible treatments, possible everything. Let them do it, because the virus is setting the time frame. Influenza, when it arrived on the planet, set the time frame. Rhinovirus sets the time frame. Everything that is a virus or something like this, it sets the time frame. We cannot control it. We should, however, not let politics get in the way and let politicians decide, I'm going to remove everyone from office who didn't obey me because they think, as a bartender from New York or a crooked lawyer from California or whatever else they were, they are the only ones who know what's right. I don't know. I've talked long enough. Let me know what you think, but as always, be civil. If one of these idiot politicians or idiot celebrities shows up in the thread, I won't hold back, but I won't be vulgar. The rest of us, we can treat each other like the common sense, thinking adults we are. Be civil. Until next time, everyone, stay safe, stay smart, stay healthy, stay home. Please remember to like and share the video and subscribe so you're part of the larger conversation and the giveaway. And until next time, everyone, have a wonderful day.